Spider Lie. This book is written by a former CIA officers that teach you how to detect deception. It's a New York Times bestseller. Philip Houston, Michael Floyd, and Susan Conocera with Don Tennant. Um, Very good book. I've been reading it. Right now I'm on chapter 8. So I want to start my little book club called Booked and Busy here on the Unorganized Chaos Network channel. Hope you enjoy it, beautiful souls. Um, we're going to turn confusion into clarity and a little bit of laughter with this book. Today we're going to dive deep into Spotlight, um, specifically chapter 8, what deception looks like. And before you start side-eyeing your cousin at Sunday dinner, just remember these tools aren't for calling folks out over the potato salad. They are for understanding human behavior, protecting your peace, and knowing when to trust your instincts. We're going to break this down section by section so you can spot the little signals people give away when the truth gets slippery. So grab your notebook, get comfortable, and let's shine a bright light on the art of deception because knowing is half the battle and wisdom is the whole blessing. So, Spotlight. Have any of y'all read this book before? Any of y'all got this book? It's very good. Okay. Chapter 8, what deceptions look like. What deception look like. Okay. He that has eyes to see and ears to hear may conceive himself that no mortal can keep his secret. If his lips are silent, he chatters with his fingertips. Betrayal oozes out of him at every pore. Sigmund Freud. That's a very good quote. If a picture's worth 1,000 words, this senior corporate executive wrote a book in the course of a single encounter. Phil had been called in to interview the executive, who worked for a Fortune 500 company that had a government contract. Due to the classified nature of the work to be performed under the contract, background investigations had been conducted on a number of the executives in the company, including this one. We'll call him Norman. Norman's background check had revealed that he had a foreign girlfriend, although he was married. The issue wasn't so much that Norman had a girlfriend, but that he had not disclosed it. He was required to make all foreign national contacts a matter of record, and he had failed to do so. Why you failed to do so, Norman? Probably because you was married. That's probably why you failed to do so. Norman was a formidable presence, a big guy who had played football in college. His demeanor was brusque when he came in, hung up his suit coat, and sat down. Phil explained to him why he was there, to talk to him about the report that he had a foreign girlfriend. Why they had to put on there that he had a foreign? Oh, because of foreign national contest. In response to that, Norman said, okay. And he took off his right shoe, pulled his foot up into his chair, and wrapped his arms around his knee. Bless his heart. Then, when Phil asked him directly whether he had a foreign girlfriend, Norman responded with a couple of convincing statements, took off his left shoe, tucked his left foot into the chair, and wrapped his arms around both knees. So there was Norman, this big man in a crisp white shirt and tie, sitting in a fetal position, peering between his legs at Phil. Yeah, that's what them foreign girlfriends that have you doing. They have you sitting in a fetal position. What was Phil to make of this? Clearly, Norman had to have a certain level of intellect and sophistication to have become a senior executive at a Fortune 500 company. But his decision making skills ain't on the level of intellect and sophistication. Yet he had absolutely no awareness of the behavior he was exhibiting. It was a glaring illustration of how no one is immune from exhibiting accessible behavior. Let's just say Phil knew he had a problem and that he had more work to do. I think Phil should have known he had a problem when he needed a wife and a girlfriend. We said in chapter 2 that the majority of communication is nonverbal. In fact, nonverbals comprise a fairly significant majority. The findings vary in different studies, but most researchers have concluded that at least two-thirds of our communication is accomplished non-verbally. If we consider that category of communication in its entirety and think of it as body language, it's important to understand that the deceptive nonverbal behaviors we examine as part of the model are only a subset of that. In other words, some forms of body language are considerably more revealing than others. That is so true. I remember when I was in interviews and interrogations, uh, when I was going to class at the Georgia Public Safety Training Center to get my certification in interviews and interrogation. They put up a interview, a video of it. We watched it, and then we watched it with the sound off and just looked. And then we watched it. We listened with our eyes closed and just listened. And using those three different things, it helps a lot to come up with what was really going on. So-called body language experts tend to analyze nonverbal behaviors globally. Remember what we said about global behavior assessment? You don't want to go there because you'll be trying to get particular posture or repetitive motion. You need to take the guesswork out of the equation. If five people are interviewing you, you'll be trying to get particular posture or repetitive motion. You need to take the guesswork out of the equation and filter out all of those global behaviors that do nothing to help you get to where you want to go. Why would anyone participate in any behavior that is not going to get you to where you want to go? We all do it. I do it. I don't know if it's consciously or not, or subconsciously. It's a waste of time. Identifying deception, so you need to limit your analysis to only those behaviors that come in direct, timely response to the stimulus, which is your question. Experience has enabled us to identify certain behaviors as potentially being deceptive when exhibited in this manner. So let's examine them. Now, I've read this particular chapter before I decided to come and do a live on it, so I wrote down some things that I wanted to share with you. So, my brief explanation of this part of the behavior, pause, or delay. Uh, yes, that's what we're about to go into, the behavior, pause, and delay. Okay, when you're with somebody and they pause or delay, well, let me just read it first. Behavior, pause, or delay. You ask a person a question, you initially get nothing. After a delay, he begins to respond. How long does a delay have to be before it's meaningful? Before you would consider it a deceptive indicator? Well, it depends. Let me tell y'all something. I've been friends or knowing this person for literally over 20, 25 years now. And there's been a change in our communication habits, not on my end, but on her end. So I text her and I didn't get a response. So the next day I text again and she was like, damn, free, give me at least 24 hours to respond. It's my first time ever hearing her saying, give her at least 24 hours to respond, especially to us something, a simple question that I know she know the answer to. So I was like, well, I'm uncomfortable with this type of communication, so I don't need to no longer participate. If from now on I have to wait at least 24 hours for a response, I'm good. So I don't know what the pause or delay in that was for about, but God bless and wish her the best. Try this exercise on a friend. Ask her the question. On this date 7 years ago, what were you doing that day? The person will invariably pause before responding because it's not a question that naturally evokes an immediate response. The person has to think about it and likely still won't be able to offer a meaningful response. I couldn't tell you what I did 7 days ago, so don't even ask me what I did 7 years ago. Now ask her, on this date 7 years ago, did you rob a gas station? Of course, the answer would be hell no, because who's going to go rob a gas station? Hopefully, nobody, but we know it's being done. God bless them. If your friend pauses before responding, you probably need to choose your friends more carefully. I would agree. I find this statement to be true and accurate. Much more likely, there will be no pause. Your friend will immediately respond, no, or of course not. It's a simple exercise, but it drives home the point that the delay needs to be considered in the context of whether it's appropriate for the question. A second variable is whether the delay is appropriate for the person. In the course of an interview, for example, a pattern will naturally develop that gives you a sense of how much time elapsed before the person responds to your questions. If we see something that falls outside of that established pattern, then we have a concern. Yep, we have more than a concern. We have a suspect. We have articulable reasonable suspicion, all of the above. When someone is being deceptive, there's often a noticeable hesitation before they answer. Remember that whenever you're talking to someone, dating someone, or questioning someone about to hire somebody, fire somebody, there's often a noticeable hesitation before they answer. Their brain is busy crafting a believable lie so their response don't flow naturally. Even a pause for a few seconds can be a powerful clue that something is off. Now, have you ever noticed someone take a long pause before answering you? And did it make you question their honesty? So put your answer in the chat. I would like to know. So now let's go to verbal nonverbal disconnect. Verbal nonverbal disconnect. Thank you so much for being here. Thank you. I really appreciate you. Our brains are wired in a way that causes our verbal and nonverbal behaviors to naturally match up. So when there's a disconnect, we consider that a potential deceptive indicator. A common verbal nonverbal disconnect to watch out for occurs when a person nods affirmatively while saying no. Yeah, pay attention to that. I saw that on one of what's that guy name that murdered his wife in Modesto? He said no, he didn't. But if you watch the interview, he was nodding. And people like me who've been to interviews and interrogations and body languages and stuff like that, and of course, it's CIA agents who write books about a lie, probably all noticed that too. Because I know when I saw the interview, I was like, oh man, he guilty. I was hoping he wouldn't be guilty. I mean, who in their right mind as a husband to kill the mama and the baby? Of course, because he had a girlfriend. What's the girlfriend worth it? Bless his heart. Now he in jail with a girlfriend request. Ain't that something? Ain't marriage proposals. Lord have mercy. These desperate women. We have to pray for them. A common verbal nonverbal disconnect out for occurs when a person nods affirmatively while saying no, or turns his head from side to side while saying yes. The body language ain't adding up with the words that are coming out of your mouth. So you can't even deceive yourself enough to have your body to be in alignment with the lie that's coming out of your mouth. Ain't that something? As an exercise, if you were to perform that mismatch in response to a question, you'll find that you really have to force yourself through the emotion. Yet a deceptive person will potentially do it without even thinking about it. There are a couple of caveats associated with the particular indicator. First, this indicator is only applicable in a narrative response, not in a one word or short phrase response. Consider, for example, that a person's head might make a sharp nodding motion when he says no. That's not a disconnect. It's simply emphasis. Second, it's important to keep in mind that in some cultures, a nodding motion doesn't mean yes, and a side-to-side head motion doesn't mean no. But in America, that's exactly what it means. We all know that. So you need to ensure you're familiar with the cultural patterns of the person who's being questioned. And that's a verbal, nonverbal disconnect. Yes, get some background. Just don't go in um, interviewing the subject without getting a background. Truth tellers, words and body language usually match. If you're telling the truth, then you ain't got to worry about if your body language is matching up to your yes and no's. But liars often say one thing while their body betrays them. Yeah. Like nodding yes while saying no. These mixed signals can reveal the truth slipping out unconsciously. Can you recall a time when someone's words didn't match their gestures? What did you feel in that moment? Yep, I know a lot of times when people's words didn't match their body language. Body language is so important. Get the book. If you ain't got the book, get the book. Very good book. Spot a lie. Get the book. Very good book. It'll bless you. We're on chapter 8. Thank you so much for being here. I really appreciate you for being here. Thank you so much. Chapter 8 is called What Deception Looks Like. We are now in section Hiding the Mouth or Eyes. Let's see why somebody who's being deceptive would want to hide their mouth or eyes. A deceptive person will often hide her mouth or eyes when she is being untruthful. There is a natural tendency to want to cover up a lie. So if a person's hand goes in front of her mouth while she's responding to a question, that's significant. Similarly, there's a natural inclination to shield oneself from the reaction of those who are being lied to. If a person shields her eyes while she is responding to a question, what she might well be indicating on a subconscious level is that she can't bear to see the reaction to the whopper she's telling. This shielding may be accomplished with the hand, or the person might even close her eyes, We are not referring to blinking here, but if a person closes her eyes while responding to a question, that does not require reflection to answer. We consider that a means of hiding the eyes and a likely deceptive indicator. Let me tell you a true story. True story. Let me tell you a true story. Dare I tell one tell you a true story? I was in a disposition, and the attorney said, "Hey, Dr. Cosby said he ain't never heard of you before." I looked at the HR person who was giving me eye contact, looking at me when I would answer questions. When the lady said that, I noticed the HR lady did not look at me at all. It was like she was trying to hide her eyes and mouth, look straight ahead, the other direction. Wasn't looking at me. I was like, look at this. Look at this. How are you going to be at a disposition lying? And I know you're lying. And that's all I'm going to say about that. God bless you. But you ain't got to lie, Craig. You ain't got to lie. You just ain't got to lie. But when people cover their mouth, touch their lips, or shield their eyes, they're subconsciously trying to block the lie or avoid your gaze. How about we just not lie? If you don't lie, you don't have to block your lie. It's simple. It's just that simple. Okay? Turn to your neighbor and say, block the lie. No, that's the wrong name. Go to the other neighbor and say, block the lie. It'll bless you. It's almost as if their body's trying to shut down the deception leaking out. Thank you, body. Because the mouth is unruly. Why do you think it feels so hard to look someone in the eye when you're not telling the truth? Why do y'all think that? Why do you think that? Anchor point movement. Let's talk about anchor point movement. Again, we're reading Spot the Lie. I'm in chapter 8, what deception looks like. Anchor point movement. Beyond these physiological reactions, the body also dissipates this anxiety through other forms of physical activity, most notably anchor point movements. A person's anchor points are those parts of his body that anchor him in a particular spot or position. If a person is standing, his primary anchor points are his feet. His secondary anchor points might be his arms if they're folded in front of him, or they might be his hands if he is standing with his hands on his hips or in his pockets. We're not worried about his posture, we're only looking at those anchor points. If a person is sitting in a chair, his primary anchor points would be his buttocks, his back, and his feet. We always consider both feet as anchor points, even if he has his legs crossed and one foot is in the air. In fact, if everything else is locked down, that foot in the air might be the most likely anchor point to move as the body works to dissipate anxiety because it's the point of least resistance. Secondary anchor points might be an elbow on the arm of the chair or hands resting in the lap. Bear in mind that we do not consider each anchor point movement as a separate deceptive indicator. So if there's an anchor point movement in response to your question, regardless of how many anchor points move, count that as just one deceptive behavior. It's worth mentioning here that when we interview someone, the last place we would want the interviewer to sit is in a straight back chair with four legs. We want the person in a chair that has wheels, that rocks and swivels, that might even have movable armrests. That type of chair becomes a behavior amplifier, magnifying those anchor point movements and making them particularly easy to spot. When I first read this part, I was not in agreement with it, and I'm still not in agreement with it. Based on what I was taught at the Georgia Public Safety Training Center, I think they got it right. You want to put them in a chair with four straight legs that does not swivel or walk or rock. I'm sorry, that does not swivel or rock, but a stationary chair to see if they try to rock themselves. Because then, okay, now are they just rocking because they're naturally in a civil rocking chair? Um, you want to see how they act, but if you give them a chair that's going to help them probably hide some of their deceptive. I think it'll be easy. It'll be harder to hide your deception in a straight back chair, a stationary chair, because you have to do more adjusting. Um, it's easier to spot your uncomfortableness. So I'm sorry. So that was anchor point movements. What did I write down about anchor point movements? Okay, anchor point movement. Anchor points are the parts of the body that are usually steady, like feet planted on the floor or hands resting calmly. When a person suddenly shifts these points, like sliding back in their chair or moving their hands, they can ease an urge to escape the moment by shifting around during a conversation. Do you feel like something is being hidden? Think about it the next time you're in a conversation with someone. Look at them. Are they at ease or are they shifting around a lot? And I would just ask them, hey, why you seem like you move a lot? You seem uneasy. Is there something wrong? Question their body language. Don't question the words that are coming out of their mouth. Question their body language. Grooming gestures. Another way that some people may dissipate anxiety is through physical activity in the form of grooming oneself or the immediate surroundings. Let's get a sense of what this looks like. Our colleague Don Tennant tells the story of having interviewed the CEO of a major U.S. software company when he was working as a technology journalist in Hong Kong. The early morning interview was conducted in the presidential suite of the Grand Hyatt Hong Kong, where the CEO was staying. When Don arrived, the CEO answered the door in a Hugh Hefner screen bathrobe. Hugh Hefner. He got his own bathroom. And welcomed him to have a seat in the living room near the grand piano. At this particular time in the company's history, the CEO was on the verge of introducing a hardware device to the market, a gusty move that had created a huge buzz in the tech sector, but that some analysts considered to be horribly ill advised. There appeared to be no real synergy between the company's massive software business and their effort to market a hardware device. But the CEO was adamant that taking that risk would prove to be one of the best decisions he ever made. Really. Given the controversy surrounding the new strategy, Dunn circled back to the topic of the hardware device several times during the course of the hour long interview. And each time, the CEO insisted that the hardware product would be hugely successful and would deliver tremendous shareholder value. What was fascinating, however, was that each time he proclaimed that the device would be a success, the CEO would grasp the belt of his bathrobe and clench the rope tighter. What y'all think that means? His body language is telling the words something different than the words that are coming out of his mouth. As Dunn has pointed out on any number of occasions since then, he had no problem with that because he didn't know what the CEO had on under there. But the consistency of the grooming gesture was striking. As it turned out, the hardware device was a colossal failure, and the idea was eventually shelved. So he was willing to risk his job to get a piece of a hardware device on the market. Some people egos are so big, ego, edging God out. It's so big that they just can't see. We know somebody else like that, don't we? Yeah, well, a 32, 35, 36 count felon. Don't we know somebody like that? The company hasn't ventured into the hardware realm since. In a more typical setting, when responding to a question, a deceptive man might adjust his tie or shirt cuffs, or maybe his glasses. An untruthful woman might move a few strands of hair behind her ear or straighten her skirt. Y'all check out for these behaviors, especially when you're looking to dating somebody like this. Might be signs of deception. Spot a lie. Yeah, that's what this is a book about. Teach you how to spot a lie. We're also concerned with sweat management. That a person might be sweating doesn't bother us, but if he takes out his handkerchief and wipes the sweat off his brow when responding to a question, that's significant. Tidying up the surroundings is another form of grooming gesture. You ask a question, and suddenly the phone isn't turned the right way. The glass of water is too close, or the pencil isn't in the right place. Like anchor point movements, count all of these grooming gestures that come within the response to a single question as a single deceptive indicator. That's exactly what it is. Spot a lie. Deception. This is a good book. Welcome to my good book club. Thank you for being here. Spider like grooming gestures, straightening their ties, smoothing hair, adjusting clothes. These grooming gestures can be a stalling tactic or a way to relieve tension. They're often performed unconsciously when someone feels scrutinized or exposed. Have you ever felt scrutinized or exposed? Did you lie? Or was you just embarrassed? Why do you think people instinctively start fixing themselves when they feel nervous or caught off guard? All right, family, let's look at chapter 8 of Spot the Lie. You've got 7 fresh ways to see what's really going on behind those poker faces. Read this book, might make you even better in playing poker. That's something you do. Remember, awareness is your superpower. It's not about accusing, it's about observing with love and discernment. Now, I want to hear from you. Drop a comment below and tell me which behavior have you noticed most in your own life or even in yourself when you're feeling cornered. And if you got value from this, go ahead and tap that like button. It's just a little tap. Just tap it, tap, tap. Subscribe for more soulful insights and share this video with somebody who needs to learn the fine art of truth detecting. Until next time, stay wise, stay grounded, and stay beautifully unorganized. Okay? So, Booked and Busy Book Club, Spot the Lie by Philip Houston, Michael Floyd, Susan Carnicerio. I know I messed up the name. New York Times bestseller. That was chapter 8. Very good book. Uh, Very good book for real. I love it. Learned a lot by reading it. I hope you enjoyed it. On the Unorganized Chaos Network, where I'm the evangelist of it, the proud evangelist of entertainment, where all are welcome here, especially the gay, straight, crippled, or crazy. This is a Whosoever Will channel network. And we thank you so much. Come once, come twice. We thank you for being here in the name of Jesus Christ. All are welcome. You're welcome to like. You're welcome to share. You're welcome to subscribe. You're welcome to place your comments. And you're welcome to turn on that notification button. And you're welcome to support this channel if you would like to do so. There's a blessing in giving. There's also a blessing in receiving. So thank you so much. I really appreciate you. Thank you so much for subscribing. I really appreciate you for subscribing. I love you. I appreciate you. I thank God for you. The Jesus in me loves the Jesus in you. It's so easy, easy to love. All hearts and minds are clear. Go govern yourselves accordingly.